Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We'll be looking into something that might surprise you. The link between sleep and learning English.
Interesting, right?
You might think, what do those two things even have to do with each other? But better sleep, seriously, it can really boost your English skills.
Yeah, it can make a huge difference, especially when it comes to remembering new words.
Or even just focusing during your study time.
Yeah.
We're going deep on this today. So we've got a ton of research that shows sleep is way more than just, resting your body.
It's true.
It's like your brain flips a switch and starts seriously learning while you're asleep.
Yeah, it's like your brain is working overtime. It's taking everything you learned during the day and getting it all organized, putting everything where it belongs.
So no more pulling all-nighters to cram then.
Huh. Yeah, probably not the best strategy.
So our brain is working hard at night.
Totally. It's during the day, your brain is like a sponge. Just soaking up all this new English stuff like vocab, grammar, pronunciation.
Yeah.
But then when you sleep, your brain becomes like a librarian. It starts going through all that information, organizing it all. And this is called memory consolidation, and it's super important.
Right. So it makes all those new English schools stick. So it actually stays in your brain.
Exactly.
Okay, but what happens if we, don't get enough sleep? Does our brain just kind of give up on all that organizing?
Well, yeah, kind of. Studies show that when you don't get enough sleep, that memory consolidation thing, it just doesn't work as well. It's like you're trying to build a house on a shaky foundation. You might put in the work, but it's just not going to be as strong.
Right.
When you're tired, you just can't remember those English words or grammar rules as well. And focusing, forget about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Your concentration just goes downhill.
So I guess if we're serious about actually being good at English, we need to be serious about sleep too.
Absolutely. It's like an investment in your language learning. It's just as important as any textbook or language learning app you could use.
Okay, well, I'm sold. I'm adding sleep to my study schedule right now. So for those of us who, sometimes have trouble actually getting a good night's rest, what are some practical things we can do to improve our sleep?
There are some great tips that anyone can try, even if you're super busy.
Okay, perfect, because I know I'm definitely one of those busy people.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. First up, routine. Sticking to a regular sleep schedule, like going to bed and waking up around the same time each day.
Yeah, that's key.
And I will admit, I am so guilty of not doing this.
I get it. It's tough.
But why is that so important?
Okay, so our bodies, they have this thing called a circadian rhythm.
Okay.
And you can think of it like the conductor of an orchestra.
Okay.
It keeps all our body functions in sync, including when we sleep and wake up.
Interesting.
So when we go to bed and wake up at around the same time every day, it's like we're helping our conductor, keep the orchestra in tune so it's easier to fall asleep and you wake up feeling refreshed.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So consistency is really what we're going for.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what about screen time before bed? I mean, I'm constantly on my phone.
Right.
Especially if I'm trying to squeeze in some extra English practice.
Oh, yeah. No, it's so tempting.
It is.
But that blue light from our phones and tablets and laptops, it actually messes with our sleep. So our brains, they make this hormone called melatonin.
Yeah.
And melatonin tells our body it's time to sleep. When it gets dark, we make more melatonin.
Oh, okay.
But blue light, it makes our brains think it's still daytime, so we don't make enough melatonin, and it's harder to fall asleep.
So even if I'm using my phone to study English vocab, it could be working against me.
Unfortunately, yeah. You might be learning new words, but your brain isn't getting the signal that it's time to rest.
Wow, okay. I'm putting my phone away an hour before bed, starting to nog. So what are some good alternatives to being on my phone before bed? Things that can help me relax.
Yeah, so our sources suggest creating a calming routine before you go to sleep.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is a great idea. Maybe read a book or listen to some calming music. Or you could even try meditating. And here's a little bonus tip. Why not try reading an English book?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or listening to an English guided meditation.
Yeah.
You can relax and work on your English at the same time.
Oh, that's brilliant. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of things we do every day, I have a confession. I'm addicted to caffeine.
Okay.
Coffee is my love language. But our sources say that caffeine can actually make it harder to sleep. How bad is it really?
Well, caffeine is a stimulant, so it gives us energy, which is great during the day.
Right.
But when it comes to sleep, not so much. Caffeine stays in our system for hours, so it can make it harder to fall asleep, and it might even mess with how well we sleep. So if you love coffee, maybe try switching to decaf in the evening.
Ooh.
Or even like an herbal tea.
Okay, good to know. I'll be reaching for the chamomile instead of the espresso after dinner.
Okay.
So we've covered routine, screen time, and caffeine. What about just like the room itself, our sleep environment?
Yeah, that's really important too. Our senses play a big role in how we sleep. Like a cool, dark, quiet room.
Yeah,
It's way more inviting for sleep than a bright, loud, and stuffy room.
that's true. So basically, I should like ditch the bright overhead lights and get some blackout curtains.
That's a great start because darkness helps your brain make melatonin, that sleep hormone we talked about.
Right.
Keeping the room cool also helps because our body temperature actually drops when we fall asleep.
Interesting.
And when it comes to noise, minimizing distractions can really help. Some people even find that like white noise or nature sounds can help them fall asleep.
You know what I've actually been using? An app that plays rain sounds.
Oh, nice.
And it really helps.
That's great. It's all about finding what works for you and creating a space that's relaxing and helps you get a good night's sleep.
I love that, a sleep sanctuary.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on, I wanted to quickly share a personal story about, my own struggles with screen time before bed. I used to be glued to my phone, especially when I was trying to learn English. And I thought I was being productive, but my sleep was terrible. I was always tired, and I just couldn't focus during my English lessons. So I decided to try something new.
What did you do?
I started doing what we just talked about, like creating a relaxing routine before bed. So I started putting my phone away an hour before bed, and I pick up an actual book.
Oh, wow.
It felt so weird at first, like not scrolling through social media or like, looking at English learning apps.
Yeah, I bet.
But after a couple of weeks, I really noticed a difference. I was falling asleep easier, and I felt way more rested and alert during the day,
That's great.
which helped my English learning a ton. I could focus better in class. And I was remembering new vocabulary way easier. I even felt more confident, like actually speaking English.
That's fantastic. It really shows you that even small changes to our sleep can have a big impact on everything else we do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Especially something as like challenging as learning a new language.
For sure.
So we know sleep's crucial for learning English. But can we go a little deeper into the science behind it all? Like we talked about memory consolidation earlier. What's actually happening there? How does that work with language learning?
Okay, so imagine your brain is like a giant filing cabinet.
Okay.
And all day long, you're stuffing that cabinet with new English stuff,
Yeah.
like verb conjugations or like those weird English idioms.
Right.
And then when you sleep, your brain becomes this like super efficient office assistant. It starts going through all those files and organizing them.
Uh-huh.
It makes sure that the most important stuff gets stored in that long-term memory.
Right.
This is super important for learning a language because it helps solidify those connections in your brain that are linked to new words, grammar rules, even pronunciation.
So if I'm trying to like memorize a list of irregular verbs, a good night's sleep will actually help me remember them.
Exactly. While you're sleeping, your brain is strengthening those pathways between the neurons that represent those verbs, so they're easier to remember later on.
That makes sense. It's like hitting the save button on all my hard work learning English.
How exactly?
So besides like memory stuff, how else does sleep help us learn English better?
Well, think about what it feels like when you're sleep deprived. You're foggy, right?
Yeah.
Sluggish, you can't concentrate.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
those things directly affect language learning.
Oh, yeah.
When you're well rested, you can focus better during your lessons. You can pick up on those little pronunciation details.
Yeah.
And you even feel more confident when you're speaking.
It's true. I've totally noticed that when I don't sleep well, even simple English sentences just go right over my head. Like I just can't process the information.
It's so true. And it's not just like your brain power either. Sleep affects your mood too,
So-
and your motivation.
Oh, yeah.
When you're well rested, you feel more positive and energized, which makes a huge difference when you're doing something challenging like learning a new language.
Totally. But when you're tired, you just get frustrated more easily.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, lack of sleep creates this like dominant effect, and it messes with every part of learning English.
Yeah, it's a chain reaction for sure.
Okay, so how do we start thinking about sleep differently? Like it's an active part of learning, not just something we do when we're tired.
It's all about changing your perspective. Think of sleep as a training session for your brain.
Oh.
Like you wouldn't skip a workout if you were trying to build muscle, right?
Right.
So you shouldn't skip sleep if you're serious about learning English. Sleep is when your brain can flex its muscles. It consolidates memories, it strengthens connections, and it prepares you for the next day.
I like that. Sleep is brain training. I'm sold. Sleep is officially part of my English learning routine. Now let's say our listener is on board too and wants to make some changes. What's a good first step?
Well, the sleep challenge you mentioned sounds like a great way to start. It's easy, but it's also effective.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, for anyone listening, we're challenging you. This week, pick one of the sleep tips we've talked about and actually try it out.
Yeah, you don't have to change your whole routine right away.
Exactly. Just pick one thing.
Even small changes make a difference.
Maybe you set a bedtime, maybe you start a relaxing bedtime routine, or you put your phone away earlier.
Yeah.
Just try something and see how it affects your sleep. And see how it affects your English learning too.
We'd love to hear how it goes.
Yeah, let us know on social media. We're all in this together.
Totally.
So we've covered a lot today. We talked about the science behind sleep. We got some practical tips for getting better sleep.
Yeah.
And we talked about how sleep affects literally every aspect of learning English.
Like from remembering words to focusing to even just feeling motivated.
Exactly. So hopefully we've helped you see that sleep isn't a luxury. It's really essential if you want to learn English effectively.
It's true. Sleep is not optional.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listener with something to think about. What could you achieve with your English if you consistently made sleep a priority? Like, what goals could you suddenly reach?
That's a great question. Imagine feeling super confident speaking English, or finally mastering those tricky grammar rules, or remembering new words without even trying. All of that is possible when you make sleep a part of your language learning routine.
It's amazing to think that something as simple as sleeping well can help us learn and grow so much.
It's powerful stuff.
So to all our listeners, get some good sleep and watch your English skills improve. So we've really dug deep into this whole sleep and English learning thing.
We have.
And hopefully everyone listening has gotten some good info and tips to use.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe even some tips you can use in English, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
You could read about sleep tips in English or look up articles about the science of sleep. It's a great way to practice your English.
Absolutely. And remember, even little tweaks to your sleep habits can make a big difference.
Yeah, just start small.
Try one or two of the things we talked about and see how you feel.
Exactly. Pay attention to your sleep and to how your English is coming along.
You might be surprised at how much it helps.
We think you'll be impressed.
Yeah.
So everyone, sleep well, dream big.
And keep learning English.
We'll see you next time.